she comes.
There she is.
Hello.
Okay, so hello, recording in progress. Welcome to, she's kind of a sexy voice when you think about it, the
It's
recording in progress
intentional.
lady.
Yeah.
You think so? Yeah,
I
it
think so.
definitely draws you in. Welcome to episode 11 of Living Out Loud, the podcast for, 11s, the podcast for domestic abuse and violence victim survivors and their support systems. And whoever else wants to, join us.
Dogs, cats, fish.
We're here. We're
Yep.
here. And so today is episode 11. And I would like to start by saying, Katie, how was your week?
You know what? It was pretty intense. A lot of life or death stuff with my clients this past week. I
Mm,
almost lost one of my guys. He pulled through. So
okay.
it felt kind of a collective sigh Friday night where I was like, "Ooh, all right." Had to turn off the phone and just be like, "Nah, I gotta tap out for the weekend. I can't, you know."
That's important. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's important. Yeah,
Hmm.
like, it seems like my week was, I said to a couple of my friends, I was like, I feel like unsettled.
Hmm.
Like not in a bad way, right?
Hmm.
Like, but that I just feel like something big is coming. Do you know what I
Oh,
mean?
like on the press, like this kinetic energy. I kind
Yeah,
of feel
like,
like that too. Yeah.
like
Not, yeah.
something's out there and it's slowly progressing
Working
this
its way
way.
in. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, not in a bad way. It's just this
No.
like, maybe like a life change, right? Like
Yep.
you can always kind of feel when you're on the brink of like a life change. Like you can
Yeah.
feel it coming.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I felt this week. And, of course, your basic week, like, great moments and then sprinkled in with, disappointment and disillusionment.
Yeah.
You're the usual, right? But,
Uh-huh.
good week overall. I just thought I would check in, just thought I
Yeah.
would
Yeah, I like that. We'll do a little check-in. Yeah.
do a
So,
little check in. I
yeah,
think it's
so
important.
I'm hoping that everybody took care of themselves this weekend too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Do what you got to do.
Agreed. Take care of yourself for sure. Okay. So I want to start as usual,
Oh,
or not as usual, but is there anything
so
with,
excited.
the headlines, right?
Yeah.
And this I found kind of fascinating. This was in the Washington Post on May 30th
Okay.
of, 2024. And the title is Australia's new men's behavior change secretary says the job won't be easy. Okay. So this is what happened.
All right.
In the state of Victoria in
Yes.
Australia, since the beginning of 2024, there have been
Okay.
31 female deaths caused by gender-based violence, which is, do the math,
Yeah, that's
like 7 a month, 6 a month, 6 a
hmm
month. Okay, so what they did is they appointed, okay, a parliamentary secretary for men's behavior change
wow.
because they feel that this is an epidemic.
Okay.
And now this is just the state of Victoria. This is
Gotcha. Not
all
all of
of
Australia.
not all of Australia.
Okay.
And so they appointed this man, and like he said, the job won't be easy. So what he is going to do, or what he is tasked with,
Hmm.
is somehow um informing young men and boys and men um about forming healthy relationships. Also, they're going to talk about how social media has contributed to,
Okay.
some dynamics that aren't favorable. Um, there was a line in there that I thought was really interesting, and it was like, we need to teach men that when the expectations they have of women that they have grown up with are not fulfilled, or the answer is no
No.
from the woman, that the solution is not to kill her.
Wow.
It's pretty intense. And so it's gained some applause
Of
and it
course.
has gained some criticism.
Yep, you're gonna get both.
because like, obviously some people are like, oh, are we now policing men's behavior? Like, are we now policing boys, teens,
Yep.
young men? So it'll be very interesting how it shakes out. Like, I kind of want to like keep an eye on it. Because
Yeah, and I would, because I will bet you that
I
that
wonder how
in
this
the
guy's going to do
press,
this.
and then I think it's somehow it's gonna get scooted under the rug. So I would keep an eye on it.
Yeah, so it was just interesting. Okay, so that's the first one.
Okay.
And then the second one is this is a CNN opinion piece. Okay. And it's by Amy Bass, who is a professor of sports studies at Manhattanville University.
Mm-hmm.
And this pertains to the Pat McAfee, if you heard about this week, the Pat McAfee comment about
Yep.
Caitlin Clark
Yep.
and him calling her a white bitch on air,
Mm-hmm.
that he said was complimentary. Okay. He has since apologized,
Mm-hmm.
actually multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so he has apologized multiple times. Caitlin Clark, with grace, responded with all good,
Mm-hmm.
right? All good, it's okay. But Amy Bass in her article,
Yeah.
which is entitled Caitlin Clark Isn't the Problem. Men like Pat McAfee are.
Okay.
Okay. So she says, he says he could have said it any other way
Uh-huh.
to compliment her as an athlete, and
Uh-huh.
any other way. Why he chose white bitch, I do not know. So other than him being him, I guess.
Yeah.
So he apologized, but Amy Bass says, but the damage has been done.
Okay.
The word doesn't care if it is couched within a complimentary rant. It is a dehumanizing, gendered term of disparagement with no equal on the men's side. I'd like to interject that my kids and I tried to find an equal on the men's side, and there isn't one. Women and every man who
Yeah,
uses
you
it.
know what? That's really interesting because what we usually call guys dicks, but that's just kind of like, so what?
So what? Right.
Well,
It's like,
and what's really funny, total side note, just a side note. So I
oh
was
yeah,
talking to one of my friends. So one of the main things, I work with all these military guys and, they
right.
talk about their emotions and how they grew up and their parents were their dad would be like, oh, don't cry, you're a pussy, right? And then, and then
Hi, pussy, also female.
I'm
Thank
like,
you.
okay, but you like those, right? Because, and then he's told me that Betty White said,
Oh, I know
yeah,
this quote. I know this
yeah.
quote. Go ahead. Can
But
you
no,
think of
I'm
it?
gonna get it wrong, I think, or something. Something
I
about,
know what it is.
oh, pussy is she can take, you do it. You do it. I don't want to mess it up.
She said, I don't know why men say she says, I don't know why men say grow a pair of balls. She's like, you should grow a vagina, they can take a pounding.
Yeah, that's what it is. But again, just
She
to,
was like 85
I
years
know
old
she's
when she said
awesome. I
that.
can't believe she's gone. But
Oh, it was on a late night show. It was on a
yeah,
late night talk
it
show.
was like
Yeah.
that. She just, but
Oh yeah.
just to piggyback on what you're saying, the derogatory terms, when applied to men, either reflect women, or they attribute them to their penises, which is like, why are we calling you a I don't, yeah, anyway. So agreed. My point
Oh
being.
yeah. Like my one son, because we were talking about this and we were trying to, I said, there's no real male equivalent. And he's like, asshole. I'm like, no, we all have assholes. He was like,
Right?
oh, he's like, you're right. I'm like, I know. Okay. So anyway,
Because if
she,
we called it a male, the same as the female, bitch, the flip side of that is stud, which is a compliment.
there you go. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Okay. So she says, no equal on the men's side, and
Okay.
every man who uses it knows that. Women have, to be sure, reclaimed the word in numerous ways, including Bitch Magazine. But
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean men, including you, Mr. McAfee, have a green light, no matter how normalized the word might seem.
Mm.
So this is why I'm wearing my new sweatshirt.
Okay.
Okay. My new sweatshirt says, Great American Bitch.
The
And
gift
I
of
wear
gab.
and I wear it with pride. And I will tell you where it comes from. It comes from a company called Social Goods, which
Mm.
actually supports a ton of causes,
Yep.
right? So this Great American Bitch sweatshirt is in their like reproductive rights / voting rights like line, because it also on the back of it, you can't see it, but it says like brought to you by Social Goods and like Suffs.
Okay.
Suffs is a musical about the women's suffrage movement.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So this is a sweatshirt for reproductive rights and
All right. All
voting
right. I
rights
like
of
it. All
women.
right.
Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but the Pat McAfee, like obvious, uproar, fallout, whatever. And I'd like to point out that this happened last Monday when
Okay.
he called her a white bitch on his show and then turned around and said it was a compliment. It was a compliment. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have too much respect for her to say. Nice job, dude. But that night, okay, so that was during the day. That night, mere hours later, he was commentating. He's also a commentator for like wrestling, I
Okay.
guess. And so that night he was commentating at a wrestling match.
Okay.
And one of the wrestlers, it is walked out, to his music and stuff. And the guy had a shirt on that said, I'm a big SOB.
Uh-huh.
Because the guy's like 6'8", right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's wearing this shirt that says, I'm a big SOB. Pat McAfee sees the guy, right? And says, wow, that is one big pause. White son of a bitch.
Ooh.
A mere like 6 hours later.
Huh.
So he gets the backlash about Caitlin Clark,
Yeah.
issues his little apologies.
Mm-hmm.
And then hours later, and it was like, you could tell it was totally, they were saying in there, it was totally tongue in cheek. He dramatically paused
Yeah.
and then said, white son of a bitch. It's like, are you trying to piss people off?
Probably.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It's
Like, are
that.
you
Yep.
trying?
Yep.
So,
Oh.
okay. So that was my ripped from the headlines. And now
Mm-hmm.
and then I told you I had a little monologue thingy
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that I
Well,
wanted to
something you needed to share. Yeah.
a little something. So I want to make it clear
Uh-oh. We're
that
making it clear. We're making it clear.
don't like when I do that. And
No.
these are you want to stay in the dark? No. So these are solely my thoughts and words. This is
Mm-hmm.
not Katie. This is not the podcast. This is solely my thoughts and words. Because I was
Okay.
thinking to myself,
Self.
throughout these episodes, are people maybe getting a vibe, right? That I'm anti-male, right? Or that I hate men,
Oh.
right? Because, and I want to make it clear that that is absolutely not the case. First of all, I'm raising 3.
Yep.
Okay. But the other day I was thinking about this. It was like 5:30 in the morning, right? Because my sleep is shit because I'm 51 and, that's just how it goes. So I wrote this down like in
Okay.
my notes on my phone.
Okay. Okay.
And it says, and I quote, I'm not gonna put my glasses on. I want to make something clear.
Mm-hmm.
I am not anti-men. Okay. I love men. I love men who celebrate women,
Mm-hmm.
realize we are equal, realize there has been social and economic disparity in the past and to this day, respect a woman's right to choose,
Mm-hmm.
as in, right? Choose anything, choose not to be married, choose not to have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you think the ability to bear children is our most important purpose in life, then I guess, to be fair, a man's greatest purpose is moving heavy objects and opening pickle jars.
Yeah.
Giving birth is a power move, to be sure. But I love men that appreciate the function of this
Mm-hmm.
and the function of this.
Mm-hmm.
What I am is anti-unevolved men who are having a temper tantrum right now because the gig is up, the veil has been rent, and we have recognized the mythology of women needing men in our lives to be happy or whole.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need you because we are running our shit ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
However, we can want you and we can choose you
Mm-hmm.
to be an equal partner, and isn't that preferable? And it isn't for the heavy lifting, because we can hire someone to do that.
Very nice, Ellen.
So I had to make the point, because I'm sure there are people who have been like, wow, she really bitches about men. Yeah, I bitch about the shitty ones.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, and they're out there.
Yeah. And I think, yes. And I think that even to open that up more, I'd even take the gender out. I'm just talking people,
right. So I was coming from
that
the
male perspective.
angle,
Yeah.
the angle of like, in regard to my life,
Mm-hmm.
or what people, the vibe they might, yes, there's shitty people all over the place. I
Yeah.
wanted to make it
Ellen the
clear.
man hater, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to make it clear
Mm-hmm.
that this is not a platform for me to man hate.
Right.
Like I said, I love men.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I love men.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a little too much. No, I'm just kidding. No. So anyway, I just want to make the point that this is not at all me saying that men are the Antichrist, and they're the reason for all the problems in the world. That's not what I'm saying.
Where'd you go? I lost you.
You lost me.
My screen did something weird. Yeah, and I think we should bring that up. I mean, you have 3 boys. I have, and we both have a son that's the same age. We both have 16-year-olds too. Now you have grown men, I have a grown daughter. But so obviously we don't hate men. And even though I swore off of them after, 20 years old.
Well, I mean, that's completely different.
But some of my best friends in the whole world are men. I mean,
I've got great male friends.
Yeah,
I do.
and I have a wonderful father, and so
I had a wonderful father. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think really emphasizing that, don't, as a listener, just in Western culture, don't automatically jump to the conclusion when a woman is speaking, well-educated woman on domestic violence, and that dynamic is speaking about it, don't automatically jump to that conclusion. I think
that's absolutely not.
It's a disservice to you as the listener, and it's a disservice to the person who's talking. Yeah.
This is true. And I had one other point that I wanted to make, and it was actually back in the Pat McAfee thing. I believe in freedom of speech. Okay. And clearly if we're doing this, we're going to have to. But the great thing about the freedom of speech is, put a microphone in front of someone like Pat McAfee, and he can say what he wants. And his words show you who he is.
Oh, yeah.
People's words show you who they are. So freedom of speech is a great thing.
Oh, sure.
Because then we get to see who people are.
Everything you need to know.
All right. So this week, we are going to talk about, or Katie's going to talk about, leaving abusive relationships. But I want to make one point before we go right into it. All of a sudden, my lighting just got a lot better, and I don't look as old as I did when we first came on. Okay. I don't know what's going on. So no, it does. It looks okay. So
you feel better.
I feel better. When you're in a relationship, any type of relationship, romantic, friendship, okay, friendship, familial, right? If you are in this relationship, and if you are experiencing in this relationship disappointment, disillusionment, you give of yourself, your time, your resources, maybe, and they take, right? And take and take. If you feel like you always drive the conversation, or you always try to initiate, time together. If you like, it is okay. Okay. It is okay. And this is going to lead into to end a friendship that you're not being really honored in. It's okay to take a step back from a family member, maybe draw a boundary. Clearly okay to end a romantic relationship if that's how you feel. I have ended friendships.
Yeah.
right? Sometimes we're friends with people for a long time, and you realize it's out of habit,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that you really don't interact, right? Like you really don't.
Yeah. But you hang on to it because you have this history or whatever.
It's it's emotional. It's what's the word I'm looking for? Ugh,
Habitual. It's habitual.
I'll
Yeah.
think of it. I'll think of it tomorrow, I'm
Yeah.
sure. But you can leave those, right?
Mhm.
And like if you are disappointed or you are disillusioned, or maybe you learn something new about the person that's an absolute deal breaker.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah. That's
happens.
actually, that does happen. Yeah. You're just
That
like,
happens.
yeah. Hmm.
And so I think that's very important in regard or within the terms of this podcast itself. Don't stay in stuff
Hmm.
that, I mean, let go of stuff that doesn't serve you.
Yep.
And I'm not saying
Absolutely.
serve you like the person has to do shit for you.
No, no,
I'm
no, no, no.
saying that mentally drains you, energy vampire. Oh, we've all had one of those in our lives, right?
Sure.
Um, you don't have to stay. And of course, it's easier to like break up with a friend, than it is the topic we're about to talk about.
Mhm.
Um, but I wanted to make that point because I don't, I sometimes think people don't think that way. Like, oh, I
Well,
have
I
to do
think all
this. I
those,
have to do that.
yeah, the obligatory monologue in your head, you
Mhm.
know, which comes from, often not putting yourself first, which comes from another slew of reasons,
Right. Or I've known her
Um,
for so long. I've known him for so long. It wouldn't be worth it. Just, no, it's worth it. It's worth it to cut the
yeah,
dead weight out of your life. I'm
it-
telling you that right now.
yeah. And depending on, because also there is I was just talking to my son about this because he's going through something right now, and his friends have really stepped up to be supportive, right?
Oh, that's
And
good. I'm glad to
kind
hear
of his
that.
first breakup, and so
Mhm.
um
Oh
so
no.
yeah, and I said to him, and I said, if you're ever wondering how you're doing as a person, are you a good person? Are you reliable? Are you loyal? Are you checking all the boxes? Just look at the people around you,
Right.
and that also includes letting go of the people that drain you like that, because that is also a healthy sign of you making yourself a priority. So,
Yeah, and I think that's really important. And so that actually really like segues right into what we're about to talk about.
mhm,
Um, I would like to say that in this past week, when we were checking in, um, as you know, I co-lead a DV like sport group through
mhm,
my job.
mhm.
And one of the women had, yeah, she got what she wanted from the courts,
Okay.
right? She didn't think she would. She left her situation.
Mhm.
Okay. Left her situation. But it's the classic. She's so unsure. Did I do something? Maybe I didn't fill the forms out right. Maybe I don't have a case. Maybe I don't this. Maybe I don't that. And all of us were like, no, 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 like, like don't stop. And no, you do. And it's that self-doubt and it's all that stuff. And and we were like, well, try this and try that. And she the next day was like, she was, I have an update. And we're all like, she's like, they issued the restraining order. They get, what do they call it? Ex parte. It's like immediate, I
Yeah.
think.
Mhm.
She's like, they issued the restraining order. She was like, I got the restraining order. I
Mhm.
got it. We were all like, yes. And um, he's still in the house, but she owns it.
Yeah.
So he gets time to find a place to live, but she gets to go back to her house. So it was like you could tell that she was just like, like someone believed me.
That sense of finally being validated, because especially when you're in those types of relationships, you have been told over and over again, you're wrong, you're crazy, whatever it
Yep.
is. So you walk out of those things often a shell of yourself, and
Yes.
constantly needing external validation to know if you're right or not. And it takes a long time to build that core up again because that individual worked real hard to break it down. So,
well, that, like I've said that to, to the ladies in my group, from stuff my sister has said to me, 'cause she's a social worker, and she's like, he installed buttons in you
Mhm.
to push, and it's up to you to uninstall them.
Yeah.
And their voice is in your head.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is. And, like, speaking on this subject, right? Because I'm sure there were women or men, family members in this woman's life who were like, what's the big deal? Just go. What's the big deal? Just leave. What's the big deal? What are you waiting for? What do you
Yeah.
like? That's not, it can be that easy.
Mhm.
Like, I think about when I left my relationship.
Mhm.
Like I just said to my friend the other day, I'm like, I didn't knock on the door. I kicked it open.
Mhm.
Right. Like I wasn't like, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. Cause like when I come to a decision, I come to decision.
Yep.
Right. So like when I mean, it was literally, it made no sense. I was making dinner one night and he came into the kitchen and he started fucking with what I was making. And I looked at him and I said, I want a divorce.
Yep. Yep.
Like that was it. And he left.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, who's laughing now?
Mhm.
So, but that for me, that was like, I was just like, no, like that's what I mean. Like I kicked the door in.
Yeah. And I
I
think,
didn't, I didn't take baby steps, but
no, you
I
just,
get it.
but you'd
I
already
get
did
baby
all that in
steps.
your mind. You did that in your
Yes, I did.
mind. I
I
mean,
did.
so the actual moment when you said, I want a divorce, it's not like you did all the prepping ahead of time, I mean, so it was just time to pull the Band-Aid off. I mean, you did
Yeah,
all,
that's exactly what it was. Exactly.
and I think when we're looking at different types of abuse, um, for example, I have a couple that I work with, and I'm sure you're aware of this, but in domestic violent relationships, once if it's physical, once you get to choking, are you familiar with this stat?
No, what
Yeah.
is it?
So these things happen gradually. It's not like all of a sudden, um, the person starts beating you up. It's little bit, little bit. So the stats show that by the time you have a partner that is choking you, if you don't get out of that situation, the likelihood there can be a fatality has escalated quite a bit. I don't know what the percentage, I don't want to quote something and be wrong. But if you work with folks, therapists in domestic violence, by the time someone comes to you and they say he choked me or she choked me and they have, then it's like, get out.
You're gonna die. You're gonna get
Yeah,
killed.
this is
Yeah,
where, because even if it isn't intentional, he's going to do it again. And it doesn't take much. So I want to clarify that. It doesn't mean that, um, once you cross something, it's easier to do it, right? And
right.
so he's already choked you once, likelihood he's going to do it again. And because that area is so sensitive and it's so easy to die that way, it's not necessarily that he's going to get more and more and turn into a killer. It's just that now he's comfortable here. So the more he does that, that increases the likelihood of there being a fatality. Um, and I've got, believe it or not, someone I'm working
It's
with.
amazing.
Yeah,
Ugh.
you got to get out. You got to get out. And I'm working with this couple and it's on choke number 4, you
And they
know.
and they and they both come to see you. They
He
both come.
he doesn't anymore.
He doesn't
Yeah.
anymore.
No.
Okay.
And she calls me periodically, but when something erupts, and boy, I tell you, Ellen, you can lead a horse to water, right? And you can give her all the resources in the world, but that self-doubt, and that's why I'm bringing this up, is I think sometimes that is the most dangerous part, are those installed buttons, right? The ones that say, oh, well, maybe it's just because he had too much to drink, or, actually, we were really great the week after that. Yeah, because usually an incident like that then is followed by kind of a honeymoon pyramid.
I was just gonna say a honeymoon period,
Yeah, yeah.
right? I'm sorry, I love you,
Yep.
right?
And it's just to watch
Mm.
somebody. So as a therapist, what I instill is facts, like I shared with you. Just hand this information over. It's not my opinion. It's the statistics show that if
Right.
we're at that point, you are putting your life on the line. And then work on the inner sense of self and relying on your own instincts because she doesn't trust her instincts anymore, you know?
And, okay, so this is where it gets, this is why, okay, and people who look at this objectively and aren't in this situation, like I said, who are like, why doesn't she just leave? Why doesn't she just leave? Why'd she go back? Why doesn't he leave? What's the
I
problem?
know.
What's taking him so long? Well, there's so much involved.
Yeah.
All right. Now, especially, here's the other kicker, and you'll agree with this, guilt,
Oh, yeah.
right? If they have kids, mom guilt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ruining their lives. I'm ruining their lives. What's going to happen to them? How they're going to grow up without a father or mother or whatever. No, they're not. Okay. Like, unless the parent is an asshole and leaves a situation. No, they're not going to grow up without two parents, but that's for future negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, guilt,
Mm-hmm.
fear, um, fear of the unknown. How am I going to do this by myself? I
Yep.
can't do this by myself. I can't do
Mm-hmm.
this. Um, how are people going to look at me? What are people going to think? What's
Yeah.
my family going to say?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Um, they're, where am I going to live? Where am I going to go?
Just
How
the
am I going to support
logistics.
myself?
Logistics are a big deal. Like, where
The
do I go?
logistics
Yeah.
kill you,
Yeah. That's
right?
a lot of what makes people so paralyzed because they don't even know
Yes.
how to begin. You know, they're entrenched financially with this other person. And
Yes.
I'm going to interject here. When you're in that place and you are having the realizations that you know you need to go, this is when you need to rally up your supports. You need to
Support
rally, you need
system.
to bring them in because they will come up with a plan and say, you're just going to follow this, you know, because, and try to, as the person involved, being receptive to what these people are offering you instead of doing the yes buts, because the yes buts is just a lie in your head. That's the guilt, that's the fear. You
An
have to
excuse.
tread, you know, in blind faith with the people that you truly love and that love you, and
Yes.
let them lead.
Yes. And you know what? Accept the help,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like if it's monetary, just don't think about it right now.
Nope, gotta
Okay.
get out. Yeah.
Like, because a lot of times it does have to be financial,
Mhm.
because sometimes these people, there's financial abuse also,
Yeah.
as we know, which
Yeah.
is withholding money
Mm-hmm.
from the person, the abused person.
Sure.
Um, there are so many factors. And I think about, but there are people who've gotten out and done it with way less than I ever had. I mean, like I was someone who, we owned our home. I'm just going demographically here. That's all I'm
Sure.
doing. I've got a bachelor's degree. I've got a master's degree. I had a great job. Like I have, you know, earning potential. I had,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
had established career
Yeah, it's not like you had
background
high school education and three young kids and, you know, and
and no money
and
and
no
no
money
car,
and no
and
car, right? Mm-hmm.
and there are women and men with far less
Mm-hmm.
than I have that
Mm-hmm.
have done it.
Mm-hmm.
Far less. And I'm sure you've probably read, when Tina Turner finally left Ike Turner.
Oh yeah.
She wasn't famous yet, people. She wasn't
Yeah.
famous yet. She had $38
Yep.
and was beaten to hell
Yep.
and walked into a hotel and was like, please help me.
Yep.
Right. And the hotel manager took one look at her and was like, absolutely. And I think he
Yeah.
put her like in the best room in the place.
Yeah. Yeah. So
She got out.
yep. And it's if part of the
No, I feel like I'm criticizing people for not getting out. That's not what I'm doing.
well,
You know what I mean? Like, that's not what I'm doing.
so I was going to go back to that. Let's talk a
Okay.
little bit about why people don't get out. Okay. Because there's a lot of, and I see it all the time, and it's kind of like addicts. Why don't they just stop using, you know?
Right, right.
Why don't they just get out of that abusive situation? What are they doing? Just get out.
Hmm.
The layered and tangled ball of string that you have become when you are in one of those relationships. Um, First of all, there are some just straight up behaviors that happen with that type of personality. call it the grooming or whatever, but it
Mm.
starts very early on where they start creating a sense of self-doubt, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then, and they might isolate you from people that you love because they need to
Mhm.
remove the supports, right? They need to remove, they need to become, they need to create a sense of like you two against the world, right? Like,
Like,
so they're,
I'm the one here for you.
yeah.
I'm your support, right? Me, no one
Yes. So
else.
it's a combination of, oh, you can't handle this. Let me take care of you. So it's
Right.
enforcing, number one, nobody really understands you but me. And number two, you're not capable of doing anything because of you know, you just you're too nice, or you know, you don't set, you know, you really need to set some boundaries. They'll take that little piece of truth and wind it around to the point where now it's your whole truth. So
Yeah.
when people say, well, why don't you leave? Can you imagine the only person that you believe knows what you should do is the one you're trying to get away from? So that dichotomy is maddening. You know,
It
it's,
is.
yeah.
And I just remembered
Mhm.
something. When I was okay, when we were separated but still
Mhm.
living together, I say this like every fucking up. When we were separated and still living together, which people
Yeah.
probably wonder about that, but that's a whole other story. Um, I had this car, and the car was in both of our names.
Okay.
And I went to the dealership one day and I said, I want to speak to a salesman. And they were like, okay. And it was a lease. And I said, this is a lease vehicle. It's in my name and my husband's name. I'm like, and I wanna trade it in and lease something else just in my name.
Hmm.
And this was the salesman, and he was like, "Oh, well, in order to do that, we have to call Mazda, get the payoff, call your husband so that he approves being take like this happening
Oh,
because he was on the vehicle."
uh-huh.
And I was like, "Oh shit!" I'm like, you have to call him."
Uh-huh.
And the guy was like, hold on, let me get my manager. I'm like, okay.
Right.
So the manager comes over,
Which is
and
code for, oh shit, I don't know what I'm in a
I
pickle.
don't know what I'm doing. I want to sell this car. So the manager comes over and sits down, and he's asking me more questions. And I said, I just really want to. And he said, I'm gonna stop you. And I said, okay. He goes, I know what's going on. And I was like, he was, I know what you're trying to do. He's like, and I'm gonna help you in any way possible.
Wow. I don't think you told that. Well, you haven't told that story since I've been around.
No, I haven't told that one. And so what he did was amazing. Like, because I remember I did leave that day to go to the dealership, and my ex-husband was like, never gonna happen, never gonna happen, you're never gonna do
Right.
it, you're never gonna do it. And so they worked with me and they worked with Mazda, and I left there with a car just in my name.
Just in your name. Boy,
And
that's the beginning of detaching, right? One step at a time. Yeah.
well, I'll tell you what, this guy took an absolute bath on this car because my it was a lease. This was 2017.
Hmm.
He charged me $500 down, and my lease payment was $200 a month.
Wow.
That's unheard of. And it was like a brand new,
No, he just
like
had your back. He just had your back. Yeah. He
that
wanted to make
guy.
sure you had what you needed to, yep.
So there are in this, and this is what needs to be impressed upon people who are in these situations. There are absolute fucking strangers who will help you. Absolute
It's
strangers
absolutely true.
who will help you because maybe because of their personal experiences, or maybe just because they're radically decent people.
Hmm.
There are people out there that you don't even know who
It's
will
true.
help you.
It really is true. And I'm gonna even say that happens. That's almost the norm. I see it happen. I can't tell you how many
Hope
stories I
so.
hear like that, where like this person, I was trying to do this and this person went out of their way to make sure that I was safe, or made sure that so-and-so didn't know I was there, or, there's
Yes,
a lot of
yes,
those kinds of stories.
yes. And it's really important that people avail themselves of resources that exist. They're everywhere. Okay. The lady that I was referring to earlier who got the good news, who got the restraining order, when she left her home, she called the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and
Yeah.
they literally walked her through.
Yeah,
They
and I
said
think we should talk about that, because I have a lot of people that they don't make that step because they have these false impressions of, like, somehow they're gonna try to get you to leave. Somehow they're going to, your partner's gonna find out somehow, these are the gentlest people, and they get it. And so
yeah,
they're going to meet you where you're at in regard to what you're ready to hear. And if you're
right,
not ready to hear all the things they have to share, they're going to give you the information so you can access it on your own when you are ready.
right.
Nobody's going to push you into anything.
No, good God. They know, I mean, that's a given. Especially with these people who are calling, who are at their wits' end, who have been pushed around. You're
Mhm.
definitely not going to get somebody on the other end of the line who's going to push you more.
Mhm.
Like, they're going to listen, they're going to be able to tell what point you are at,
Mhm.
and they're going to know exactly what to say to you, judging by what you're sharing and what point you're at. They can tell when they talk to you, you're not ready to go yet. You're not ready to go
Yep,
yet.
they know.
But they will. So, I mean, I was amazed. Like, she said, they told me to get a burner phone. I was
Mhm.
like, really? She was like, yeah. She's like, get a burner phone. Like, they like logistic stuff,
Oh yeah,
like
yes, the
basic
very basic
logistic
stuff.
stuff.
Mhm.
um that, because you're so high in emotion,
Yeah.
obviously. Sometimes you can't even like really think
Well,
straight.
it's like you're in crisis, and what do we always say? Don't
Right,
make any life decisions and when you're in crisis, but you have to, because
but you
that's why
have
you're
to.
in crisis. That's why you got to reach out to people who are not in crisis. Yeah.
Exactly. And these people are trained, and and there are so many
Hmm.
resources. So, like, there are things that if there's anybody out there right now who's listening or watching, okay, and you're in a situation where you want to leave, but you're paralyzed. Okay. And that is paralysis is the first step.
Yeah.
Trust me. And you don't really know what to do, and you don't really know where to start. Okay. I'm going to tell you a couple of things. Dump the guilt,
Mhm.
because you have nothing to be guilty about, whether it's your kids, whether it is the partner that you want to leave is like, if you leave, I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah,
Um,
that level of emotional manipulation is pretty common too. Yeah.
Now, and I know, of course, that strikes fear into people, because then obviously, like, oh my God, what if he or she kills himself? It is my fault. No, it's not. Suicide is a choice.
Mhm.
That sounds insensitive or unfeeling,
Well,
but
let's just leave
it,
that.
it
We
is.
can
Yeah, we
revisit
will
that.
leave that. But
So
I'm saying,
there's a big
taking
difference in
on
people
that
who are
burden.
struggling with suicidal ideation and people are using the concept to manipulate people. It's very, very different. It's just, yeah.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
yeah,
It's a horrible thing to do to somebody.
yeah.
That's a horrible thing to say to somebody.
Hmm.
That burden, that responsibility, that oh, if you leave, I'm going to end my life. That is a horrendous way to get
And
somebody
it's
to stay.
pretty common. It's actually very common. And I was,
It's
working with another
terrifying.
couple where um that we'll talk about that, but that's a very
We'll
common
get to it.
form of manipulation, and so when you say dump the guilt, I think that's important, but I think that's a lot to ask.
Oh, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's so
So I
hard.
think, like, logistically, right? So it's time to go,
Right.
but you're paralyzed.
Absolutely.
So if you have the resources to start speaking these things out loud to friends, um, do it.
Yes.
Or reach out to anonymous resources. But there's basic things. Start putting some money away, you know, get a burner phone, things like that. Little baby steps that are physical steps, getting your lease taken care of so they're not on there, looking at getting them off the deed of the house or whatever. These are things, having very, very concrete things that
Plan.
asks that you can do. And, you know, covertly, you know, kind of doing it. Now, if the situation is volatile and you've got to get out and you just got to get out and all that stuff comes later,
Right.
you know, then there's that. But
I think each little step that you take in like a plan, you know, like getting a burner phone, putting some money away, having a what do they call it? Kind of like an escape bag, right?
yes,
Like a bag with some
sure.
change of clothes, whatever.
Mhm.
As far as the putting money away, I'm gonna divulge. This was not me, somebody else. Um, if you don't know how to do that,
Mhm.
like man or woman, because you know there's like marital assets and marital
Yeah,
debt
yeah,
and
yeah.
all that stuff. If you I
What is this illegal, Ellen? I don't know.
don't know, it's not. So say you go to the grocery store and you go grocery shopping or wherever you can
You get
use
cash
your
back.
cash back.
Oh, and then it just shows like you've made a purchase. It's not.
Just shows the total.
Oh, brilliant.
It doesn't break it down. It just shows the total. So if the bank account's checked,
Yeah, it
it
looks like
doesn't.
you spent 230 bucks at Wegmans, but maybe you pocketed 130 of it. Interesting.
Well, that's a pretty big disparity. I don't go that far.
Well,
I mean, because
okay, maybe
what if you
$5.
need to show proof, right? But like it can be, well, who's to say? I mean, 10 here, 20 there, right? 40
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
And sock it away.
You know, and that talks about, and we're going to touch on this. Oh, well, let's, because I want to talk a little bit about next week and our guest that's coming on.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna give some resources.
Yes. Yep. Let's put them out there.
National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, National Domestic Violence Hotline, domesticshelters.org. Let's not forget about shelters. Okay. Sometimes those people actually come to your house and get you.
They do. Yeah.
They do.
I'm trying to look
And
up I'm trying to find, there's a local.
Haven House.
Oh, thank you. I couldn't think of
Haven
it.
House.
Haven
Yeah,
House.
Haven House in Buffalo.
Yeah.
And then also too, there is RAIN, which
Yep.
is Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network.
Yep. Established by
RAINN.
Tori Amos. Yep.
So they're all out there, and a lot of them, I actually mentioned this in a previous episode that was way far back. If you go on their websites, a lot of them have you know, the shutdown button.
Yes.
Right.
They almost all do, where it says click here if you need to get out of this now.
Exit immediately, right? And it also takes it out of your browser.
Takes out of your browser. Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
no history. And if you don't feel educated enough to know how to clear your history, I wish I knew for sure which ones do that. I don't want to speak out of turn, but
yeah, I don't want to say for sure which ones,
yeah.
but they have it built in.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you know you might need to kill the conversation, but you can also text them.
Yep. Yeah.
And
Another
you could
good
do that
reason for a burner phone.
I was just gonna say you could text them from your burner phone.
Yep.
So I know these things probably seem overwhelming, right?
It's a lot of information. Yeah.
It is a lot of information, but it one step at a time, right?
Sorry, I had to kill a bug. I know, I'm so violent. I'm so violent with it's terrible.
So, I mean, but one step at a time, one day at a time. And talk to people.
That moment, you know, when you know, I mean, sometimes you might know a year before you actually do anything.
Oh God, I knew like 10 years before I did anything.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't gone into it that much, but I was in a pretty nasty relationship before I met my wife. And I think I knew, well, 2 years definitely before Liz and I connected, but probably 4 years, you know, and that was had to run and move into a motel kind of thing.
Jesus.
These women's are crazy.
Bitches be crazy.
Yeah,
back to our bitch guy.
Yeah,
okay. I'm sorry for that. I don't want to
but another wonderful story of a motel owner who just became just such a sweet, kind man who
your new friend, your new best friend.
Yeah. Now, right? You know what? It's not your lighting. You know what's happening to your face? Your face is getting pixelated.
Why?
Well, I don't know, but it does look weird.
So it looks weird again?
Yeah, but it looks pixelated. It doesn't look like you're an old hag. It just looks like
Is it my camera? That do anything?
it's very strange. It was almost like you had a, now it's very bright. Okay. I'm like,
And now
all
it's
of a
normal
sudden you
again?
were an angel. All
I am an angel. I'm a
right, well,
kitten.
let's talk about next week a little bit.
Do it.
Um,
Oh, and your final thoughts.
oh, and my final thoughts. So another dear friend of mine, and is coming on, and not sure, she has, unfortunately, a variety of relationships she can choose from. And thank God she's not in that world anymore. But she's a dear friend of mine. Her name is Erin, and she's going to come on and talk about basically the same format that we took with Leah. You know,
Right.
what was your journey? And she's also going to talk a little bit about, because she had multiple relationships like this, which we do know happens. She's going to talk a little bit about her impressions as to why that pattern continued. And I think that's an important thing.
I really want to hear that
Yeah.
because, like, one of the things that I proposed to you, and we decided to do this one first.
Mhm.
One of the things I proposed to you was navigating relationships post
Yep.
abuse.
And we're going to talk about that. And because we don't want, um, and I think Erin can talk about that too, because she is a beautiful example of someone who did not shut her heart down despite what has happened in her life. And probably in one of the healthiest relationships now I've ever seen her in. So
Good. And I like to hear that because, like, when I was saying earlier, like, I don't hate men. Um, I was like, I felt like saying I easily could though, based on my
yeah.
some experiences I've had in the
Yeah.
dating realm.
But you want to be very careful with well, that's a whole nother topic. Let's,
It is. It is.
about, so even on a small scale, what, who are you bringing into your life and why?
And
So
why?
Aaron, so even at like, oh, that's the same thing that I brought in. It's a muted version, but it's still the same thing. So what am I not getting that I
Right.
keep replaying that? And that's, I think, something we should definitely talk about, because once you understand what that is, you can make it stop.
And I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So she'll be
awesome.
here next week. And I'm just going to go
Yay.
back to final thoughts that
Yes.
keep the people you love informed on what's going on in your world. Because what happens is, if you are cut off from your support networks because you have involved yourself in this fabrication of this perfect relationship or whatever it may be, then that self-doubt becomes the spiral and you can't get out, because now your resources don't even know where you're at.
Right. You do. And you know what? Don't hesitate to tell them, because I'm going to tell you something. Sometimes they already know. And
Oh,
they're waiting for you
mhm.
to come to them,
Yep. Yep.
because people are pretty observant
Hmm.
and it's not hard to tell.
Hmm. Yep.
So, exactly right. And somebody's got to know, man. You can't, please don't be one of these news articles you read where nobody knew anything and they find the person's body in the woods. Like, I'm just like,
Yeah.
I love the fact, okay, so my kids never text me and tell me they're coming here. My son is calling me right now because I know he's in my driveway, but you didn't call and say you were coming over. So I'm not answering right now. Okay, so final thoughts. You matter. Everybody matters. If you
Yep.
want to get out, like, there are so many steps to get out. Look up those resources.
Reach
Know
out
that
to your friends, just like we talked
people,
about, like how Leah did. We
friends,
talked about,
strangers.
yeah,
I mean, like, honestly,
create those networks where people are going to tell you the truth, even if it
they're
doesn't,
out
you
there.
don't like it. Yep. Or
They're
use
out.
those supports, because boy, those people know what
And
they're.
take the support. Take it. No matter what form it's coming in, take it.
Exactly.
Don't hesitate. Don't feel like you're beholden, take it.
And you have no obligation
It could
to
save your life.
care,
Could
to
literally save your
care
life.
that for that abuser in your life. You don't need to
Yeah.
take care of them, because that's part of the lie too.
Yeah.
Yep.
You could save your life. Just take the help.
Yep.
All right. Until next week.
All right, my friend. Yeah, send us out. Yeah, you don't look old. It's just pixelation. That's
Well, thanks. I'm pixelated. Apparently I'm not real.
all
I'm
right.
pixelated. Okay. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.